Okay, the importance of fueling pre-workout is absolutely essential. Now, it can vary, of course, on the type of fuel that we may recommend, depending, of course, on the the time of the day that you may be training and how much you can sort of stomach pre-training. So essentially, if we're looking for the general population who's looking at a bit more of an endurance or a high intensity type of workout, we definitely are recommending carbohydrates, to incorporate carbohydrates. We're anywhere between around 2 to 4 hours pre to their workout. Now, the things that I definitely would taper down on pre-workout, just because it's not the best essential macronutrient to utilize for an energy source, is your fats. So if you're going into a workout having a whole heap of nuts, nut bars, you might feel a bit of tummy issues, and it's not necessarily going to be the most effective for your training or your performance, because it's not going to give you the most adequate fuel. So if we're looking at examples of types of foods that we would essentially consume prior to a training session or even a sporting event, we're looking at quick digestible carbohydrates. So some options might be rice cakes, even with a little bit of peanut butter and a bit of honey. We can definitely have some bananas, or we can even incorporate shakes prior to your workouts. Now, introducing protein with a carbohydrate carrier, like for example, like a banana, is actually going to be just as effective pre-workout as it is after. Basically, incorporating the carbohydrate with that protein powder is going to help carry it into your muscles, so that's also going to help with your recovery, and it's also going to help with your performance. Now, if you're a person who trains at 5 or 6 a.m. like myself, you might find it quite difficult to stomach something earlier in the morning, and I find it very difficult myself. So I often would recommend, if you are training for quite a long period of time, I would often really suggest to have some form of essential amino acids, because this will absolutely help with your recovery and making sure that after your exercise or your workout that you're refueling with adequate amounts of protein and also carbohydrates. You can incorporate a little bit of fats, like a little bit of avocado, a little bit of nuts, but I would definitely say make sure you've got good quality carbohydrates. An example for that for breakfast could be oats, it could be a whole grain toast, it could be Weet-Bix, for example, and then you may incorporate some protein alongside with that. I often just use a protein powder because it's easy for me. Often the one that I would recommend again when we're looking at quick digestible types of protein, I would recommend the WPI, because I find it's most easiest to digest and is also the gold standard in terms of the protein powders. Now, if we're looking at the general person who's not necessarily going to do too much endurance sport, they can't really stomach food too close to their workout, what would we often recommend? I would say the most important thing for you is to incorporate the foods that you think that you're easy to digest and you're not going to feel uncomfortable or get sort of any intolerance with. So you don't necessarily need to carb load before a lifting session. We want to really make sure that you're getting effective carbohydrates regularly throughout the day. So incorporating no carbs at breakfast, no carbs at lunch, and then a big carb meal before your training session is absolutely not effective. You need to make sure that you're distributing a small amount throughout the day, because it's actually going to constantly give you that little bit of energy. It's also going to help with your muscle strength and replenishment, so you're not going to get a big drop in fatigue later on.